Welcome to the Golden Feather. Grab a pint, a plate, and pick your seats. Your hosts, Vertek and Chibi Bree, are back from their latest adventures.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Golden Feather. Today is the, 15th? Is that where we're at now? Jeez, time flies. 15th of April, 2022. And we are today on episode 119. We are live with AJ featuring AJ9Lives. You may have seen the name around. Now you see the face. Enjoy it.
Again.
Love it.
For our original viewers.
Yeah.
Howdy. How we all doing?
Ew.
What's up?
We're doing pretty good. Sorry. I asked chat while I was trying to distract them from the lack of us starting immediately what food they would like to see, and Grumpy says chicken main, and Mobtech says the golden soul of sandal, which sounds kind of gross to me because all I'm imagining is a cooked sandal on like a plate.
Yeah, just deep fry it, cover it, melt the cheese, it'll be fine.
I mean,
It'll
yeah,
be
it's
delicious.
fair.
Delicious.
Deep fry anything, it'll taste good.
Right?
But we're doing pretty well. How about yourself, though? How are you doing?
Good to finally be on the show. I know we've talked about this for how long now?
It's been a minute.
I
think you were one of the first people to submit our intro voice line in the Discord.
And that was, what, 2-3 years ago?
2019-ish.
What? Jesus. All right, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah. Let me make sure I have this.
And every time you'd tell me, like, hey, you want to be on this week? I'm like, yeah, I'm working late, can't do it. So.
All
Can't
good,
do it
all
today.
good.
Good to finally be here, though.
It's all right. We got you.
I've admittedly not kept up with Ashes quite as tightly as I would have liked to, but I did brush up on a lot of stuff recently that I'm interested to talk about, because, I mean, an upcoming game is always something that we're hyped about. We always want to talk about a new game, so always happy to do that.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Oh, we also have wood chips, by the way. From February 5th of 2019 is when I called for people's submissions.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Damn. I remember I was still in college at the time. I remember that. That was wild.
Yeah, right. Well, a soul is a fish. That's fair. I forgot. But no, literally a sandal. Really, literally a
A
sandal.
literal sandal.
Oof.
A literal sandal.
Yeah.
That sounds
Now, like-
tough to eat.
Now, like,
Right?
an actual sandal that you see, like, a middle-aged guy wearing with socks, or, like, just a flip-flop? like
Well,
we need detail on that.
There was
I
the
think
sandal
that-
shrine, right? The whole Steven sandals. Were you around for APOC?
Yeah.
I
The
don't remember
Sandaria? Sandalia? I forget what everyone called it. Sandalaria, I think.
I missed
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was like the 11th commandment or something. Thou shalt not wear tube socks with flip-flops or something.
Wow. Valid. I mean, it takes
Goodness,
bravery to
sandal
wear
word.
socks and sandals.
We know. AJ has been a little preoccupied with life, though, so that is fair.
I missed a meme. I'm sorry.
Meow, meow, meow. You'll never be
I have to put my
forgiven.
phone on silent. I was not prepared for all of the vibrations. There we go. Okay, we're good.
Ooh,
That's the one
That's a
thing
good
I remember
call.
to do.
Yeah.
I did not. I was waiting for mine to start going off too.
Sometimes I don't hear anything, and then sometimes I get all the alerts all at once. So it's fun.
Talk about
But,
lack of preparedness. Back in the day when I used to do a podcast, I would be like over there, and like from that point of view, like the rest of the room was behind me, so my dad would just randomly come downstairs and try to talk to me. I'm like, do you mind?
Could you not?
Yeah, he just stand there with his arms like on his hips until I turned around. I'm like, dude.
I'm a little busy right now. I'm sorry.
I would tell him every other week, and it just either forgot or he didn't care, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Dante says, I have my physics lab exam in 5.5 hours from now. I should be asleep. I can't sleep. So anyway, how are you guys doing?
Should be there, not there.
I mean, like, I remember those days sleeping for like a half an hour before an exam because you were cramming, but you're not cramming. You're here right now, which is where you should be. Tell your friends.
Man, as much as we love you here, I'm gonna go ahead and say that you should probably pass out for a bit, at least to get some kind of sleep. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's too late to try to take some kind of sleep aid.
Yeah, like a melatonin or something would be harsh.
I learned that the hard way. I didn't realize that sleep aids try to keep you asleep for like 8, 9, 14 hours. And like, I took
8, 9, 14.
I took one at like 1 o'clock in the morning and I had to be up at like 6 or 7. And I got up and I was dead. But I tried to like counteract that with like a couple double espressos and just a constant war in my body of trying to keep me asleep and fire me. It was a bad day.
Oh no!
So be careful with sleep aids,
just gonna lurk and power nap.
Good times
we're
were not
hoping for
had.
the best for you, Dante. Yeah, no, definitely. I learned if I have to get up in less than 6 or 7 hours from when I'm sleeping, don't take it because I'll just be groggy and annoyed easily for the whole day.
It's so rare I can even sleep that much anymore. I just gave up. I've taken melatonin twice, and one of those 2 times was a disaster. I just don't bother anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, some red wine, yeah, that does the job.
There you go.
Yeah, physics.
That's my sleep aid.
Physics is that's math, right? Physics.
Yeah, advanced math.
Science with math, yeah.
I didn't make it past algebra 2, so.
Physics uses calculus.
Yeah. Chemistry was rough for me because like it debated me. Like I thought I was getting science, but really I was just getting math with like a coat of science over top. I felt so betrayed when my professor said, "Now we have to do algebra." I'm like, "Why? I failed algebra 3 times and I finally got it. Why are you making me do it again?"
Yeah.
Why you do this to me?
The only class I ever had trouble with in all of school was math. I was so bad at it.
I haven't finished my degree, but I left off where I had to take discrete math next and physics, and I was like, I don't want to do this.
I applaud anyone who even tries it. Like, even statistics. Like, statistics in high school was a joke. Statistics in college made me cry. Like, not literally, but like the leap from high school math to college math, I was not ready, and I barely passed high school math.
Yeah, no, when I got to college, I wished I was still taking calculus in high school because you could take 1 semester of college math in a whole year for high school because it was slower. I don't know why, but that's how they did it. So I was like, I wish I had taken calculus in high school instead of requesting to go back to pre-calc.
Yeah, the only math class that didn't like destroy me was geometry. Because I think maybe I'm a bit of a visual learner. There's something you can kind of visually articulate, and maybe that's why it was easier. But like, something about math, man.
I don't want to know what has to go into these character creation tools with like math and physics and everything, and getting like the hair follicles to fall just the right way or to look a certain way.
And just like the physics engine in general, like speaking of physics, like with how water moves and how hair moves and how wind affects things and how character movement affects things. That's got to be math. Like, I'm no expert, but that has to be math, and I would not want to do it. Yeah, geometry is the best way to begin maths. Well, since you said maths, I'm assuming, are you from the UK? You don't have to say. But like, in my school, we had to do algebra first. And to me, algebra is underrated in terms of how hard it is. Like, the most basic algebra is not hard, but it gets hard very quickly. And like, I had to do algebra, then geometry, and then another algebra. And then they made me do stats, which, again, let's not talk about that because it was Australia. Yeah. Yeah, geometry is the best introduction into maths. I would agree.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I had fun with math. And then I didn't have fun with school. Yeah, I loved me some math. I went up to honors physics in high school, actually.
In high school?
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Bruh. Honors physics in high school. Jeez.
Good.
But anywho, outside of the maths thing, tell us more about yourself, sir. Like, what? Just for those who don't know you as a person, what brought you to Ashes, and what's your favorite stuff, and what kind of stuff are you into right meow?
Right meow? Well, right meow, I've been playing me some Elden Ring, which, if you guys don't know, is the latest game from the developers who brought us Dark Souls and that whole trilogy and that whole series. I've been gaming probably since I was 7 or 8, since I got a Game Boy Advance. Not quite old enough for the OG Game Boy, but I've been playing video games my entire life, from RTS games as a kid that I was terrible at, to eventually I got into like World of Warcraft when I was like a preteen, and action RPGs like Dark Souls. I've touched Zelda again, I think because I was never much of a Nintendo guy, and I'm a little bit younger than a lot of the Zelda audience. I never really got into Zelda. I probably would adore it if I did. It just seems like the kind of thing I would have liked as a kid. But what brought me to Ashes specifically was due to me following a lot of World of Warcraft channels. A lot of those channels also cover other games. And there's a YouTuber that some of you may know called The Lazy Peon. And he first uploaded a video in 2017. Has it been 5 years since Ashes was announced?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that was the same video that I saw.
Yeah, I'm like, because I'm like, okay, what's this? And then I'm like, wow, that's promising a lot. Let's see how this goes. And probably, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be echoing the sentiment that it seems like, Intrepid really has it in them to back up a lot of what they're saying. The fact that, Steve and the guys legitimately have, the money and the resources and the vision, equally importantly, to actually bring all this stuff forward. And, MMO gamers, we've been burned a lot. We've been promised things we didn't get and stuff like that. And just seeing that, it just seemed hopeful, because again, we just, we aren't super hard to please at the end of the day, MMO players. We want a beautiful world to lose ourselves in and have fun killing some things and hanging out with people.
And for the company making it to not be like crazy greedy and charge, dollars for everything and make you pay money to progress at the same speed as everyone else.
Yeah, pay to win ain't fun. No one likes that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And I understand these, the studios, they need to make money, but I remember early on, I think Steven had the right idea where it's subscription based. It was subscription and no box cost. Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, to me, either box cost and no sub, or like no, or just the other. Like, I think that works. I don't mind paying a subscription for a game that doesn't charge me an arm and a leg for things and actually, delivers on its quality. I think that's more than fair to pay a sub fee for that. So, yeah, I'm just like many people, just playing games and looking forward to playing a game that didn't, hurt me on a soul level. And when I heard about Ashes, it seemed like it was slowly but surely building to that. I know we're still a while away from release, but a year and a half probably minimum.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping it's rather sooner rather than later. I'm hoping for within the 2-year mark. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a big project though.
Yeah. Since you mentioned playing Zelda and some of the old school games like that, and also liking Dark Souls, got a theory to put forward to you.
Okay.
I say Castlevania was the first Souls type game.
I haven't played me a lot of Castlevania, but I have heard a lot of that echoed, and I feel like that may. When were they originally released? The Castlevania games?
Like 1703, I think, before video games were created. They had Castlevania going. Like, as long as I can remember a game system, they had a Castlevania.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if those were a lot of the influences. I know Miyazaki, the creator of the Souls games, definitely drew his influences from a lot of places. And like, he basically was completely green to the gaming industry, and he, took on a dying game essentially that became Demon's Souls, which was the first game in the series, came out in 2009, which was the genesis for the rest of it. And it's amazing how many games have like tried to copy, replicate, or in some way, stay in line with the Souls-like formula. And it's addicting, it's a good formula. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Moptech says I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying. Action RPGs, we love them.
Right. Moptech was saying I'm calling Alpha 2 for November, December. It's Toads, not Hopium.
Hopium.
Yeah.
And since you were saying the Zelda stuff, have you tried the more recent Breath of the Wild one?
I haven't. Like I said, I haven't played a whole lot of Zelda. Like I dabbled when I was young.
You should check that out. It's different than the other ones. I'll say that.
All right. Do you recommend any particular platform?
I play it on the Switch. I don't know if it's on anything else.
Oh, it's probably go Switch then. I play Animal Crossing with my girlfriend on her Switch. That's about my only Switch experience.
Yeah, I think it's just Switch.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'll definitely. I'll
look
consider
into
giving
that.
a shot. Yeah, I will, because I've had a few other people want to play stuff with me on the Switch. So I'll definitely, on that recommendation, I might do it.
Vertek, you were gonna say something? Was that regards to the November-December Alpha 2?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say I'm terrible with calling dates, but I mean, since we're throwing them out, yeah, MobTech, my hope, totally hope, is that they kind of do an Alpha 2 quick test in November, December, and find out some things that are broken when they introduce a bunch of people outside the studio playing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take the holiday break like they normally do, and then come back afterwards and start to get hard on getting the Alpha 2 up and patched up and running for people to jump into. That's what I hope they do.
I hope it's not 2 years between, because then beta for 24, like that's 2 years between the last alpha if we were to have it for November, December, and then not until 2024. That'd be big oofs.
And I think Alpha 2 is the first one I bought into, so like seeing that, I would like to have that sooner rather than later, because I haven't done any of the testing, because I haven't like bought into it, I haven't been invited, so like seeing that, by November, December, I think that's reasonable, a reasonable timeline to see that. But we always want things sooner rather than later. Like we understand things take time, but like we just want to play, we just want to look at it, Yeah.
It's going to be bananas when people do start finally playing in the Alpha 2, and it's just going to be videos everywhere about everything.
And I love that about a game when when there's so much news and content creators, constantly coming forth with new stuff. Like that's the fresh buzz of excitement in the community because a big part of gaming on any platform and any medium is the community aspect of it. And to me, there are fewer, more fun times in a game's lifetime than like launch and pre-launch, when we're just like building hype and adding new stuff and theory crafting and just talk about things we're excited about. To me, that's just the best part of it. It's almost as fun as actually playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Good. You. No, you.
I was just gonna say, if I made a face, it's because I was trying to respond to Synthwave, what they were saying, but then when I started typing, like for whatever reason, when I hit the reply to this message arrow, it doesn't automatically put the cursor in the box. So I started typing, but nothing happened. So I was like,
Yeah, Hollow Knight. I haven't played Hollow Knight, but that looks like.
I don't know what that is.
I had someone give me a code for it.
It kind of fits into the Metroidvania, like Souls-likes. It's hard to explain. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's another like game that isn't horrendously complex, but it's got like fun boss fights. It's got challenge. It's got a dark atmosphere. It's got the things people like. I get there's so many Souls-likes now. I get them mixed up after a while.
That's fair.
Yeah, someone gave me a code for it, and I just haven't been able to get over there to actually play it.
Huh.
Have you played Dark Souls, either of you?
I'm not super into those games.
I've played it enough to know that I die a lot, which is also what's supposed to happen.
I was gonna say that's the face of a man who's died. Did you play?
I need to go kill this thing. I need to slay this boss, and then I sit there for the next hour trying to slay that boss, and I do say trying to slay that boss, and then I finally get him, and it's just no greater victory feeling in the world right there.
Yeah. Did you play like all the series, or like just the first one, or like what's your?
Just the first one, and honestly, I didn't even beat it, and I didn't pick up any of the other series sequel to it because I didn't want to without playing through the first one and finishing it. It's kind of like I can't play that until I finish this because I started it. So
good man. I appreciate that a lot because I have a lot of people who ask me about the Souls games, and because I've talked about them a lot. And they always want to start with Dark Souls 3 because it's like the shiny and pretty and like newer one. I'm like, you gotta start with the first one. Start with the first one. You can skip the second one, but start with the first one. You know. So I appreciate that 100%. You know, like to me that game, like not to get off on a tangent, but like that game to me is one of the best like first playthrough games I think I've ever played. You know, it has its problems. Like the world is so great. Like it's got so much atmosphere and charm. You know, to me that tends to slightly win over having flashy, bombastic combat. You know,
Yeah.
immersion. You know,
I see that. But yeah. One of these days I need to get back to it. I forget why. I just got distracted from it for some other reason. I think like another game I've been waiting a long time for came out, and I dipped out of Dark Souls and just never turned back to it. It was always I'll get there tomorrow. I'll get there tomorrow.
Now, did you have the original version on like the last gen consoles, or did you have the remaster?
It was on PlayStation either 2 or 3.
3. Okay. All right. They came out with a remaster for PC and PS4, not PS5. It was some weird timing there, and it's on the Switch too. I think, funnily enough.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure I saw the disc sitting around somewhere.
Yeah, me too. I had it for the 360, that ancient machine. Yeah.
I remember when there was like the red ring of death on the 360s. All my friends were talking about it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I never was unlucky enough to get it, but like, yeah, that was, you know, the sheer terror. I'm like, Mom, this red ring might appear. It's like, Andrew, stop talking to those kids. Yeah. Did any of you guys have to deal with your parents like not letting you play video games for like more than a half an hour or some garbage?
No, I didn't have to mess with that part.
I had interesting childhood. I had multiple different families as parents. I was a foster child, so there's that. But then when I got to the later teens, when I was at my dad's, I was allowed to play World of Warcraft all night if I wanted to, as long as I got my homework done. And when I was home, though, my grandmother is very against a lot of video games unless it's like the ones on Facebook, which is like Farmville,
Candy Crush,
Candy
Crush, those things. But I was playing Pokemon, and she was like, "You're killing things. What the heck?" And I was like, "It's a game. It's a
not
game.
real.
Relax,
It's not real.
relax.
I'm not actually killing those." But she's a very religious person, so
Right.
it was difficult. Even with Final Fantasy, where you're supposed to be the good guy, right? The
Right.
idea is you're the good team going through and trying to get rid of the bad guys. Like
You're the warrior
I
of
played
light or
White
whatever, right?
Mage. Yeah. Well, I mean, not 14 necessarily, but yeah, I mean, this was way before 14. But yeah, this is just, oh man. I was just like,
Yeah, I distinctly remember being 7 years old, and I first got my Game Boy, and my mom, first thing she did is she took it out of my hand and opened up like the user manual or whatever and started immediately reading out like, may cause seizures and this and that. She says, okay, 30 minutes at a time, 1 hour break. And I'm like, what?
My lordy.
I was like, okay, Grandma, let's get you
Oh,
to
hey
bed.
there, Bushy.
Like,
Thank you.
thank you. By the way, the bot didn't say anything, but Mercuria1989, thank you for the follow. I don't know why
let me
the
see if
bot
I can
didn't
get that
mention it.
bot up and
Yes.
going. Maybe it's taking a nap.
I see we got some
Maybe.
biddies.
Yeah. Okay, that, thank you. I was trying to get into the bot myself, but the bot was just not listening. Oh, by the way,
Yeah, I'll
if
try
you
and get it
want
going.
to check out our friendo here. Been around since before the podcast, technically. Kind of like
Yeah.
Woodchip with the one of the first people from before Golden Feather into Golden Feather.
30 minutes later, AJ has a seizure. Plot twist, undiagnosed epilepsy.
Goodness.
That was good. Grandma blames WoW. Yeah, my thankfully I didn't have to deal with that too much. But my grandparents definitely would have been the types where if they were like supervising me while I was on the computer, is that a virus, Sonny? Like that, I absolutely would have had to deal with that.
Yeah. I had the problem where my grandmother didn't know what she was talking about when she was explaining World of Warcraft. And I had only met somebody who like played Call of Duty before. So without having any pre-context of what World of Warcraft was about, just by listening to what the name of it, I assumed it was like an army thing.
Right, war.
World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, if it's one of those like, you setting up armies and you're fighting people thing, like I'm not really into that. It's not really something I'm interested in. And then my dad showed me what it actually was, and I was like, oh, that looks so cool.
The best thing ever. Was that your first MMO?
Yeah, actually, I was like 13, so
Round about how old I was, maybe a little bit younger,
Yeah.
but yeah, like your first MMO is always magical. Like even people who like tell me about like the weirdest MMOs like ever, like your first MMO is always a magical experience because like it's just unique in the genre and in the industry in general. And like your first time playing WoW, it's just like it captivates you in a way. Like the music of all the starting areas, just the atmosphere of it. What year roundabout did you start WoW? Like what expansion?
I'm trying to do math. Hold on. I'm mathing.
I'm the one who's bad at math.
And I'm kickstarting a bot. Sorry.
At least there's a 5 there.
That part of the video
Roughly
you're playing
15. Roughly 15. Yeah. Roughly 15 years ago. I want to say Wrath-ish.
Something like yeah. Burning Crusade was 2007. Wrath of the Lich King was 2008. So yeah, around about that time.
Yeah, because I remember enjoying that part, and then the Cataclysm came out and really messed up Orgrimmar.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes in Cata that were pretty polarizing. I remember at the time Cataclysm was considered like the worst expansion ever, and then like the past few that we've had, we're like, you know what? Cata was a solid mid-tier expansion.
Yeah, they just kept getting worse.
Like Legion was good, and then like Battle for Azeroth like had some good stuff, but was kind of like Shadowlands. I just stopped playing. Warlords had good stuff, but so little of it. It is funny how our memory changes. Like that was terrible. You know what? It was all right. Solid 7 out of 10.
I'll bump that up when comparing it to the newer stuff. Star Wars Galaxies, we got EverQuest. Ooh, EverQuest.
Y'all are OGs, man.
Right.
Star Wars Galaxies was so ahead of its time.
I had never heard of EverQuest until this community. This community was the first one I'd heard EverQuest from. But to be fair, I didn't really go looking for other MMORPGs because I didn't really know that there's others that existed. The one time I did look for another MMORPG is when my grandmother found out that I was playing World of Warcraft. So I found another one that was like more kid-friendly and anime looking, and it was called Fiesta Online.
Never heard of that one.
It was a random one, and I played it for a little bit, but it definitely did not compare to World of Warcraft. I sat there like trying to play it, and as like a new person into WoW, I was like, I wish this was WoW. This is not as fun.
Like WoW really ruins your experience. It's one of those games. It's so good it ruins a lot of other games for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I literally deleted my account. Oh, geez. Oh, you jumped WoW when the pandas appeared? Oh, geez.
Oh, come on, man. Like, I didn't love the panda theme, I'll be honest, but like everything else about that expansion was pretty good. But the panda theme was a little, yeah. But EverQuest, man, like what pioneers of the time. Like the things they introduced, you know, the game systems, and like it was brutal. Like if you died, you lost XP, and you could even lose a level if you died too much. Like,
yeah.
What? Like, what
and
is
I
that?
think that's where Steven is getting the XP loss from, is kind of pulling that from EverQuest.
Hopefully not as brutal.
Fingers crossed.
Because like I think if you didn't like get back to your corpse within a certain amount of time, you could actually lose all your gear. That was like another thing. Like I know a guy who he died, he lost a level, he like rage quit, and he like pulled his keyboard out, and like he did so in such a way that it damaged the motherboard. So he had to like send it to CompUSA, which is I don't even think that's around anymore, to repair it. And it took 2 weeks to repair his computer. He logged in again. He was completely naked. He lost all of his epic gear. So hopefully that doesn't happen in Ashes.
I have to say, I hope he learned a very valuable lesson of how a game is not worth destroying your wonderful computer over.
Yeah, oh, he's mellowed out a ton. He was just, he was an angsty kid, as we all were at one point.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't know what you're talking about. I was
like,
never angsty. Never once.
You liar.
I might be.
Nah, when I was like before I really started MMOs, there was a brief time where I was a Call of Duty kid on Xbox Live, and that probably sums it up right there. Yeah, left a lot of that behind. I still play COD every now and again because COD is like it's a shooter, it's whatever. Like it's the people that I play it with. There's nothing like staying up until like 3 a.m, just having some drinks, just like shooting people in a video game with your friends.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah. Well, there's better ways to vent, Baushi. Destroying your motherboard is not one of them.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I mean, I've gamer raged before. I've whacked my controller. There's actually a number of dents in this desk. That's how long I've had this desk. For when I whacked my controller on it out of rage.
Yeah.
And anywhere from getting killed in Call of Duty many years ago to dying in Dark Souls back when I was terrible. So we've all had our moments we're less than proud of. I've mellowed with age. I'm an old man now. I'm 25.
Yeah. Old.
Feel like it.
It was the days of Halo LAN parties. So many systems and TVs that you pop the circuit breakers.
Oh, man.
I've never been to a LAN party, honestly.
I love Halo Reach. Best Halo. Might be a controversial statement, but yeah, Halo Reach is the best in my opinion. And the best maps.
I don't remember if I played Halo or not. There was a series of times where I'd be over at previous boyfriends' houses playing their games, and I just was playing whatever they were playing at the time, and it was pretty fun. But I whoever Cortana is from is
Halo.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it was Halo, but I recognized it because I had played a little bit of that game where Cortana was in the game, and then suddenly all of the phones had it, and I was like, whoa, I played this game a couple years back. I recognize this voice. Why is there a game person on my phone now? But everybody was like, whoa, Cortana's on our phone. They were all freaking out about it, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. I mean, it's
that
better
was
than Siri, I'll
nostalgic.
take it.
That was very nostalgic.
Right. Having to cram 19-inch tube monitor in the Camaro. Oh, geez.
I know people who would literally carry their CRT monitors. Like they would have to make multiple trips from because they would have a LAN party or whatever, up down the street, from their house, and they would have to take turns carrying, because you had the tower, and then you had a big ass CRT monitor, and then whatever other accessories, and 2 or 3 people can't carry all of their kit in one trip if they're not driving.
Yeah.
So you just have to you got your work CRT monitors. I still have one in my closet. Those things are heavy. Yep, what AJ said. Yeah, the struggle was real back in the day before we could drive and before technology was more sophisticated. See, I'm looking at the character creation that you guys have playing on the stream right now. I cannot wait for that. It might seem like a small part of the game, but having that much detail, that you can put, looking like you took an axe to the face and you don't have functioning eyes,
Yeah. Okay, so that brings up a good question, because we talked about this the last few weeks, but somebody was saying that the character creation isn't that big of a deal to them because you're covering all of that up with armor anyway. So what is your take on that statement?
I think it's very circumstantial. It's very much a to each their own type of thing. I like having the options. I don't go too hard in character creators personally because I suck at it. I'm so bad at it. I look up different things online that people do, and I do a loose iteration of that because I don't know what half the sliders do. That's my thing. I don't know what half the sliders do. But what I do this is genius, and not a whole lot of other games have done this, but Steven said they're gonna basically allow you to make your character a few weeks before launch, I think. Thank God, because I look around town with no shit. Yeah, I mean honestly, for RP reasons and just goofy stuff that we as gamers always do, little things like that add soul and charm to the entire experience for everyone around you. And I like having the option. I don't really worry too much about body customization because again, it's usually covered up with armor. But like in the face, like the facial hair has to be right, and like if it clips through the helmet, I'm like, immersion broken. You know, like in World of Warcraft, like I play Blood Elves a lot, and elves, you know, their ears clip through the helmets almost all the time. Like, I mean, I get it. How do you cram an ear into a helmet? But like, you know.
I actually used to pretend that the elves would magically have a slot just for their ears to poke out.
I mean, you know
that
what?
makes sense, right?
That's a practical adaptation that they could have probably made. You know, I don't have 9-inch ears. I don't know. I can't imagine it's comfortable with or without a helmet. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to my next question then. We chatted about this a little bit, but the balancing skills for like damage for PvE and PvP, because we were talking about how there's, you know, 64 different class yeah, exactly. We're looking forward to being able to test the game too. But there's 64 different class type or options, right? So what are you hoping to see with like the balance between damage for PvE and PvP, if any?
Part of me hopes it's an absolute mess because like to me that's just fun. I understand it's not you can't really do that and have a player base that's going to be happy about it, but at the same token it's almost impossible to truly balance everything. That would make for a pretty static experience. But I was reading through some of the forum posts and they were saying just have abilities work differently for PvE versus PvP. And I agree with that totally. Like an example was like, you know, if an ability does 300% on a mob in the world, have it do 200% to a player, you know, something like that. Because just being able to one-shot people in PvP, like, yeah, it's cool. But when you're the other guy, it's like, okay, like big deal. You one-shot me with a broken ability, you know, so big of you. I'm terrible at PvP. I only enjoy it every now and again. My lights just went 2 seconds. I gotta turn on those lights.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Hey Bashi, thank you so much for giving Axel a sub to our channel. Welcome in, Axel. AJ went to the dark side, absolutely. Axel, welcome into the tavern. I hope you enjoy your stay as a resident. Then you can fine tune it more easily for the doves. Exactly. It looks like Vertec may have gotten the bot back up and going.
I think so.
I had accidentally made a clip
rough.
right when we started.
Good job.
AJ went to the dark side. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I got addicted to WVW and Guild Wars 2 back in the day. It was so much fun. I think the PvP and AOC is going to be mad. Big battles are really fun. Yeah, I'm super excited to see what the sieges are going to be like. Because
that's hard to do, man. Like to make it so the servers don't just crash all the time. Like you know, 2 games I've played the most where I PvP'd is World of Warcraft and Black Desert Online. And I think Black Desert Online has an amazing, like, I love and hate that game. I hate it more than I love it, but there's things about it that I love. And the castle sieges are incredible. They're an absolute mess, but that's kind of the point, you know? Like, you're just throwing spells and abilities everywhere. There's like 100, 200, 400, however many players. And in WoW, you could have a fraction of the amount of people and the server just can't handle it. So like server stability is a big factor in the enjoyment. It's not even the balance of the classes. It's can the servers handle it without everybody lagging and rolling back and shooting through the world and all that stuff.
Well, did you hear about Steven's 5,000 bears? Oops.
Yet another meme I missed?
So he was trying to test the server balance and stability with bears, and I think he meant to summon 500 bears, but instead he accidentally summoned 5,000 bears.
Yep, you know what? Okay, that does sound vaguely familiar now. Did it work?
I mean, yeah, there was bears everywhere, and all the players that were playing in the server were dead shortly after because, you know, mauled by bears.
A lot of bears.
Yeah, there was a lot of bears.
There you go. Yeah. Sorry, I was fairly vacant there. I did some emergency operation on the bot, and it's up and going now.
You saved it?
It's healthy now. For the most part. I'll have to fix it later. But here's a Band-Aid.
Band-Aid.
Yeah. But like for balancing, like, because I plan on going either like spell sword or battle mage, basically some like fighter mage hybrid. And like for classes like that, And for classes like, let's see what I have over here. Like Templars and Apostles and stuff, where you can like do a lot of damage, take a lot of damage, and basically any hybrid class is very hard to balance, because it's like, you know, do you do one thing way better than the others, or do you try to do them all the same, and then you can't really excel and you're more of a support? It's like, how do you define the parameters of what the class can do and how it interacts with the other classes? Again, 64 archetypes is just that alone. Like, they announced that what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago or something, and I'm still like, I can go on forever about how they could like balance that. The Battle Mage crew, whoop whoop. I've always loved that kind of stuff, right? There's something about, maybe it's the Lord of the Rings nerd in me, you know, Gandalf. Like, something about a battle mage is just, it's just cool, because it's like, you know, typically when you're fighting a mage, and like, you know, they're typically glass cannons, right? Like, they can do so much damage from range, but if you get in close, they're quote unquote useless. Nope, they bust out a sword and they cut your head off. Like, I love that class fantasy, you know, being effective from every range. You know, it's cool. Yeah, I can nerd out about that forever. Like, I just want to roll. Half of the thing I want to do in Ashes is just make 1 million characters. And I know I won't have the time for that, but like, just, you know, maybe not cap and raid on every character, but at least get to like level 25, 30, get a general idea of how all the different archetypes would play. Because like, I've been a part of one D&D campaign, and I wasn't very good at it because it was my first campaign, and everyone I was playing with was like D&D vets. But like, just the idea of being able to build characters in that many different ways, I think is just, will appeal to so many people. Like, there are people who I've spread knowledge of this game about, and like people I would talk to about the game. I forgot how to talk there for a second. And like, a lot of them were D&D nerds, and like, you know, I love my D&D guys, but like, a lot of them weren't big gamers, you know, just a little bit here and there. And when I told them, I was just like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then like, I sent them the screenshot of like the 64 different classes there, and they're like, this alone has piqued my interest, and like, now they're following the game, you know. So like, just the fact that one system, you know, one basic, you know, fundamental system in the game can have such broad appeal. Like, I'm always wary of I'm always wary of
that's me thanking them without interrupting you, because we're getting tiered bits and stuff.
Ooh,
so thank you guys.
Keep the bits coming. Subscribe with Twitch Prime. Don't forget to do that. But yeah, the idea. What was I talking about?
64 classes, getting your friends into it. You sent a screenshot of the different classes.
I had another tangent I was going to go on, and I completely forgot. I'm sorry. Meryl was telling you earlier, I lose my train of thought so easily. There you go.
All good. But that leads on to another part of the topic of balance between classes. Somebody was also talking about balance between PvE and PvP, which is going to be another difficult part for those class balancing people.
Did they confirm that they were going to balance it separately or no?
Well, it's going to be balanced together, and that's the tricky part, because it's easier to balance it separately as separate entities, because then you don't need to say, okay, well, there's, especially in games that have a power creep, when you raid and bosses have millions and millions of health, but the players only have like 50,000.
If that, yeah.
So you're going to do like a 50,000 hit to a boss, and it's going to be like, yeah, whatever. But if you do 50,000 damage to a player, it's a one shot, done. So balancing them separately is actually the easier part. Unless, of course...
I don't know, man. Like, that's... I don't know how they're going to pull that off, to be honest. Because, again, it kind of plays into what I was saying before. I kind of hope it's a mess where we can just, like, one-shot each other. But, like, you know, for longevity and, like, for long-term enjoyment of PvP, like, I don't know how that's going to work. That's one thing. Like, I'm not a big PvPer, so I don't care too much personally. But I know a lot of people really like PvPing in MMOs, and like, you know, some semblance of balance is important to them. And like, just being able to just, you know, one shot each other and do stuff like that, I don't know how they're gonna do it. I'm sure they'll pull off something that works. You know, I do have a lot of faith in the team. But not doing it separately, I do raise an eyebrow at that. I know that's something games have only really been doing like in the past handful of years. But I think it's just a better option, you know, because it's different. PvP and PvE are just different experiences, and you know, like, certain abilities are not designed for certain situations, but if you can use it, it quote unquote breaks the game, you know. And
Yeah.
being able to do
that's
really
where it's going to get very
fun.
interesting. Like some
Yeah.
games, they'll just take and they'll just balance the damage numbers or how long something works for, like the duration of something.
Like a CC.
But yeah, like they'll put diminishing returns on NPCs and enemy mobs that are more severe than it would be on a player.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I think it could be done, I think, if they started with every NPC as thinking they are a player and then adjusting their difficulty in the background from there, like adding extra armor beyond what a normal player would have if they're supposed to be a tough boss, and giving them a bigger health pool than a normal player would have. But your standard trash mob might be just like another player, and you have a raid running through of or a party running through of 8 people going through just a dungeon, and you can mow down a single player pretty easily. But then when you start getting to the more advanced trash mobs, then they start getting to be like twice the health pool and twice the armor and stuff like that.
The only way I'm sure there's many, but the first one that comes to my mind is kind of what you mentioned earlier about damage. Have like the damage ceiling just be lower, so that like when you do crit or do a big ability, it really matters. And like have like your base damage, because like your power creeps can make your base abilities just do absurd damage by the time you get a lot of gear. So like maybe just like making the ceiling a little bit lower and make the power creep, a lot more gradual. And like have like armor and resistances and stuff kind of factor into that on the player end. Like just keeping the numbers more under control, I think, is the the easier option as far as that goes. I mean, there's a million, like I said, I'm sure there's countless ways for someone who is a developer and knows what they're doing to actually do that.
Yeah.
But I think just like limiting the ceiling of how much damage any ability can do. Because like when you play when I play an MMO and like especially newer MMOs. Like it's not hard to get to a point where you're like critting for a bajillion damage and like you have all these procs going off of all these things hitting your target, you don't even know what's going on. So like to me, having like make less things doing damage at once and like make it harder to land a big hit, just simple things like that, just to keep it a little bit more normalized. But
yeah,
again, like the
you
fact
said
that
a bajillion damage, and it brought a quote to mind from Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Murder 1,000 damage.
Murder 1,000.
Yeah. But
how many thousand?
Definitely
Murder 1,000.
Murder 1,000. No, forgot a 0. But
like that.
Yeah, I think it might not be so difficult. Like when you really think about it, because maybe if they did simplify it down to starting with everything is balanced around PvP. Like players versus players, and then you just expand mobs and bosses and such as much as you need to make them difficult enough without going overkill with it, and then make the game more of a horizontal expansion. Like when they release new content, it's more horizontal than vertical.
That's a good
and
way
the power
of
creep is very, very, very slow. By introducing new gear sets that combined will give you different powers, or new armor that has different enchantments on it, or you unlock new things that you can add to your already existing gear to make it stronger.
Yeah, because if you balance it around PvP initially, I think that would actually work better, because like player damage will always be relatively normalized, because as you get better gear, your damage will be better, but also your ability to take damage will be better. And then like you can make things as balanced around that as you want. And then like for boss fights and like raid encounters, you can just give it a crap ton more health, and then that kind of alleviates all the absurd damage and stuff that you do. So yeah, I think the horizontal power creep. I like how you put that. That's good. I think I would agree with that.
Do we know how ASE is doing it at the moment? I believe it's more of the horizontal than vertical, right? I mean, it's
Honestly,
a little bit
I
of
don't
both,
think.
But...
Yeah, I can't think of any direct quotes on exactly how it's going to go. I'm not saying they don't exist, or that they haven't been said, so much as I don't know of them.
I think it's one of those things that they probably just aren't ready to talk about just yet, because the combat, even in the past couple years alone, has seen a lot of like reiterations and retooling. So like how they're going to handle numbers is probably like just something they haven't been ready to talk about, or like that some they haven't fleshed out as much. You know what I mean? Like how
To
it
be
works
honest.
comes before probably how much it hits for. That's just my guess.
Yeah. To be honest, they may even be waiting. I could see them with the like valid reasoning, even waiting all the way up until the next expansion to even put out much information on how the expansion is going to work. If it's going to be a vertical or horizontal, like wait until you're announcing the expansion and you're working on an expansion, and then they would actually talk about how it's going to work. But until then, just enjoy the game and play it.
Yeah, I would agree. Because a lot of like World of Warcraft is a good example. Like the power creep for that is like, from the first couple expansions, it seemed pretty gradual, and then once you hit Mist of Pandaria, you were suddenly doing millions of damage. And like, where did that come from? So like, that's definitely, yeah. Oh, the kitty
Right.
wants to
So
say
there was
something.
Meow. there was a hydrate and a stretch redeemed, and our guest must participate. You must hydrate. You must stretch.
I consider pouring some
required.
scotch, but
Oh my goodness! If you do, make one for me.
I drink Black Label.
All right, I'm in. Let's do this.
It's economic yet tasty. It's
Stretch.
a good middle ground of scotch, in my opinion. I also like bourbon, red wine, Black Russians.
Yes. We've
can do an
been
episode
dipping
about
our toes
alcohol.
in making some mead.
Ooh, I do like me some mead. There's a meadery that comes to the farmer's market I used to go to with my mom, and they made this cinnamon chocolate chili mead, and
Ooh.
like to me that's
Ooh.
just the trifecta right there. Because like I used to want to go to culinary school. I'm a big food guy, and like I
I
love
think you
talking
just
different
gave
flavors.
Vertec ideas.
Yes, please
Like-
do. If you can get a hold of that recipe, please do.
It's like just you get the sweet from the chocolate, the spicy from the like whatever chili they use, and then cinnamon is already a middle ground of spicy and sweet. So you've just completed the Triforce right there.
I like it.
I like it.
So unless did you have anything that you wanted to add to that stats and scaling and balance stuff? Okay.
That was
Well,
about it.
Well, then something a little bit more down Chibi's alley here. Something more
Sorry,
along the
cat
lines of
claws are
lore.
sharp.
Cat claws are sharp.
And they don't know how to retract them.
No, not very much. Ooh, nice meadery near you. Nice. Ooh, I like your name, by the way, Skylark the Botanist. I love it. Oh, you heard that? Who's racing in the background? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have my windows open still because it's nice outside.
It's one of those times during the year right now where it's warm outside, so you don't want to turn on like the AC because it's about to dip down in temperature anyway.
Right. It's not hot enough to justify the extra electric bill,
Yeah.
but it's just warm enough to be a little uncomfortable after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
So pop the windows open, let the wind flow. But yeah, something
Lore?
more along the lines of lore. So someone posted something, and the basic summary of it is, what if Tulnar didn't actually worship any gods as a religion? Oh, hey, check that out. Double post. But
More the merrier.
mainly because they seem to have gotten left behind and forgotten about by the gods when everybody else poofed away to magic hidden La La Land, safe away from all the dangers.
Hidden lava land.
Because maybe they see the gods as not being that powerful. The seven just aren't that strong. So why should they
Yeah.
be revered? Because they couldn't save all of the people who adored them at one point. And their theory on this is maybe they worship more something like the environment or nature or something along those lines. How do you feel about that?
She be first?
No, go for it. You're a guest.
I don't know as much about the lore as you guys probably do, but like, didn't Steven say there's going to be like race specific quest lines, not just class quests? Like, was that a thing? So like maybe
Yeah,
that'll
it was
play.
gonna be-
Maybe that'll play into it. You know, like the
Yeah.
downfall and like the leading to like the doubt is like not to get I'm gonna try to avoid getting real world, but like themes of doubting your faith is things we've seen played out in a lot of media and a lot of things, and it can lead to an interesting development, to people either sticking to it like the diehards, And then you could see like maybe the faction could splinter at some point because you get people wanting to stick to it regardless to the end. Then you get people who like want to follow their own path and who maybe want to find something better if their gods did truly abandon them. And I'm interested to see what stuff like that can play into the race specific storylines that they weave into the narrative.
Yeah, that's very true, MobTech. The dark and disturbing stories. I see that happening too.
So I have to make a Tulnar battle mage is what you're saying?
What do you think, GB?
Sorry, I was reading Baushi's comment or question. I think Eastern server, but I was thinking that, that makes sense. Maybe they worship the god of destruction, though, because all they know is destruction. And, because they got left behind in the corruption or whatever, and they morphed into the beings that they are now of other creatures, and stuff like that. So perhaps they worship one of the darker, cynical gods and, like, the worship the god of destruction and he will spare you kind of thing, perhaps. Or perhaps like the gods have abandoned us, So
yeah, I mean, an already edgy race dealing with the fact of their gods abandoning them is going to make for an even edgier race. So that sounds fun.
Edgy boys.
Edgy boys.
That's calling my name. I have no shame admitting that.
Interesting. Makes sense.
Yeah, Grumpy. Kind of right there with you, Grumpy. There, we definitely needed to know what's going on with combat for sure. But
and that's probably that's the thing they're putting some of the biggest time into because they know they have to get that right. So I think they're putting a lot of time into it, and they're being very careful to not divulge too much and like to be very clear about like this is a test, this is not its final form. Because like combat is it's what you spend probably half, if not more than half of your time doing. So they know they really need to do something good with that. And I have faith. I think they'll do a good job. Didn't they say they want to do a hybrid system with action and tab targeting?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Yeah, that's tricky, but I feel like they can do it. Like certain abilities will function like action combat, and certain abilities have to be tabbed. Like I think that was kind of what they were saying. That's a good new wrinkle. Not a lot of games have done that or done it very well. But that comes into the generalist perspective. Like if you try to appeal to both, there's always the fear that it might come up lacking in one or the other. And again, I have a lot of faith in Intrepid. The amount of care and like community interaction that they take into their development, I do have faith they'll make that happen. But I'm definitely interested to see because again, that's a difficult system. Because like we were talking about balancing, I feel like this is even harder to do properly than balance. Because like it's more specific and intricate, and like there's so many different abilities, and just deciding how they interact with each other, and at a core like coding level.
It's gonna be pretty intense for sure. But yeah, Zetrek, so circling back to your comment there, something of interest I thought of, Tulnar might be the most magical bonus heavy race because they've lived with magic all this time. I like that idea, actually. And tied in with what Chibi was saying, which honestly this is the first time we've talked about this, so I mean I think it works pretty well with that as well. Like they got left here, so obviously the gods that left are not nearly as powerful or maybe deserving of being worshipped as much as whatever stayed behind, maybe?
Yeah.
Or maybe, plot twist, they had to leave to fight something even more dire in the cosmos, and they're actually trying to protect the mortal races. That's kind of a cop-out, because I feel like so many like stories like do that. Oh, we were actually trying to help you. So I want there to be more like villain-driven and more sinister plot. I just think it's more interesting. Are you guys Marvel fans at all?
Yep.
I think everybody liked in Infinity War when Thanos won. Is that really a spoiler? Because that's like years ago now.
If people haven't seen that by now, then I mean,
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Like I like that they won, and for Endgame, they lived in that forever changed world for 5 years, and like I like that. I like stuff like that where there's consequences, and when the more sinister entities have more of a presence, and they're doing it just because they're bad boys, you know? It's more interesting than like, I'm actually a good guy, you just don't understand me. I feel like we see that a lot. So to see that on like a deific level, I think that'd make for some really cool lore. And that'd only be a piece of it, because like every race has their own like following and origin story and stuff. So that'd be an interesting wrinkle to the world for sure.
Absolutely. I played the Mesmer class too, Mob Tech, and I think maybe there's a few openings for future classes to potentially come out. So, yeah.
Which one was the Mesmer?
I think Mob Tech would be better at explaining it than I did, because the time I played was back in 2013. So I had just graduated high school and was going into college, and my roommates were playing, and I was like, cool, I'm going to jump in on this because nobody plays WoW anymore.
Aww.
Yeah.
A lot of people left it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to catch up on chat there.
So what, I was gonna ask a different question, but I'll wait until you guys are done with what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, oh, go ahead.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I was just catching up on chat there. MobTech saying, wish I had an illusion class. GW2, Guild Wars 2 did Mesmers really well.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of tying that back to Tulnar's, where MobTech was also saying Tulnar is going to be magician. I was thinking it might, with our own headcanon we're creating here of Tulnar's being magically based and potentially on the darker side of things, because they got stuck with it for so long. Maybe maybe summoner and like the necro type image might fit them well too.
Yeah.
Give me the necromancer, give me the warlock, give me the summoner classes. Yeah, I always made a warlock or a mage in World of Warcraft, and I'm usually a caster in MMOs. So I love seeing how they develop it, because like, you know, the basic mage or warlock, it's kind of hard to really mess with that or change that. So I'm hoping that with the addition of the archetypes and stuff, they can really iterate on new creative ways to play your favorite class that you've enjoyed for years, perhaps somewhere else. So looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, they have so many different classes and combinations that they can really kind of dig deep and spread out wide with the different variations of a class, like a fighter, right? You just think of a fighter, typical warrior type. Mm-hmm. But then there's 8 variations that they can play with and just redefine what, you know, any of those class names would mean in somebody's mind.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the Bard right now, the 8 different iterations of the Bard. It's like, you know, a lot of times you don't see a lot of Bard classes in MMOs. I feel like they're very underrepresented. Except Star Wars Galaxies, I think they did those justice. But like seeing 8 different, with the fact that a Bard can, like, you know, be part mage or part summoner, it's like, it just, the different ways that can go, you know, like there truly is something for everyone here.
Yeah.
And just seeing like a Bard like shoot a fireball at somebody, or like, you know, summon a skeletal minion just randomly, it's like, oh, okay, that's new.
That happened.
Yeah, keep you on your toes. Bard mage is my hope.
Were you about to say something there earlier, TB?
No, I was just gonna kind of try to find another topic to chat about a little bit, which, since we've been talking about so many different games, there was a conversation on Reddit that somebody had posted about Ashes of Creation versus Lineage 2 and Ragnarok Online. And I kind of like how we were talking about earlier. It's really hard to compare things like combat and stuff against other games with combat and stuff, in terms of every game has a combat happening of some sort. That's how you fight things. And then every game has like the PvE kind of concept where you fight things in the world around you, or PvP if it's more like Call of Duty type. But the things that are more interesting with Ashes is like which type of combat class are they going to go with, but also combat type, not combat class. But then there's the class archetype breakdown, and all the other things that make Ashes unique against all the other MMOs. And this person has actually is an original Kickstarter backer like Vertec is. And they're wondering, like, if anybody has played Lineage 2 or Ragnarok Online, what crossovers exist between those two, and would they like to see like what made it so great for it to be in development? Because apparently I kind of don't listen because I haven't played this, but apparently they mention it a lot during the development streams about like Lineage 2 or something.
You know, I have never played Lineage, mainly because the first time I really heard the name and connected it to a game, it was a mobile game. And I said, yeah, no. And I just completely ignored the word Lineage for the rest of every other time I heard it.
Lineage goes back a long way. I've never actually played it, but I think the OG like Lineage titles go back almost as far as like RuneScape and EverQuest.
Okay, gotcha.
But I've never actually played it. Same with Ragnarok Online. I've only ever played a handful of like online games.
I played a little bit of Ragnarok Online.
How about you? Like, are there any systems in that you would like to see crossover with, or that you see similarities between already?
Not really for me, because I mean, there's the cooking system, I guess, but I want to see how Ashes tackles that first before deciding like if I want that to be crossed over, because part of the excitement for me is Ashes being its own thing and having its own unique way of doing stuff. That's what makes it interesting to me.
I will be the guild chef. I love when there's cooking systems in games like that. Well, I love it. Yeah, I like when professions are done justice. I know so little about Lineage or Ragnarok, I really can't say. But if you mentioned cooking, that makes me think professions. And like, I'm not usually a big profession guy, but you know, people who play professions a lot are like the backbone of these games, because it's what helps drive the economy. It's what creates like raid consumables, crafted gear, you know, just stuff. You're some little plebby guy trying to level up, you know, your gathering or your crafting, and somebody, you know, spends 3 hours gathering what you need and listing it on the auction house or whatever. It's like, I love when that's actually done properly. And so just the idea of having such an integral and enjoyable, you know, profession system like cooking, or, you know, like, I know that might seem silly, but just being able to cook all the things in the game and like have like, you know, because they mentioned like player housing or like guild housing is kind of like a thing they plan on doing. Being able to just like sit in your guild hall for like 2 hours and like prepare like all this food for your homies to come in, like, yo, pop a squat, eat some food, you know, just things like that. Or to be able to go fishing, you know, with somebody, or like to be that guy on your server who has like that one recipe that nobody else has, you know, to be able to craft some epic piece of armor, or to be able to do that one enchant that nobody else can do.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. It just, to me, it really adds that layer of, you know, like I said earlier, just adds to that soul, and just adds to the charm that everybody can kind of appreciate and experience without having to actually directly partake in, but it's there.
Yeah, there was the one thing that I was hoping that they would bring from another game that they actually said they basically are is the NPC market type ability that they had for Ultima Online, where you could set up an NPC to sell your wares after crafting. You don't have to go and put it on an auction house or anything. You just put it on your little NPC standing on your doorstep of your house, and you set a price and you walk away, and they sell it at that price, and that's it. Yeah, there's a little player stall. You set up your little NPC, and you could have like 6 or 7 of them selling different things. You could have one of them with a bunch of armor sitting in it, another one with the food, another one with, you know, weapons, and it was really neat. It was really neat. That was the first time I'd seen that as a mechanic.
Yeah, like Baushi, however you say that person's name. Star Wars Galaxies also had that. I think they were one of the first to really pioneer that kind of thing. Like the amount of NPC stuff that you can do, and like the amount of things that players could do in that game. Like you could set up shuttles to go to other planets to take people to, like, you know, your own player housing stuff, and to like, or your own crafting stations, because you're that one guy on this whole planet who can do that. You know, so like, again, I hope Ashes kind of iterates on stuff like that, because it's just, again, those little player interactions just it's why we're all here at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Heck yeah. Yeah,
So
the other
for-
thing that I wish any other game of modern years would do, that to follow kind of in the Ultima Online footsteps, is the system that they had for your stats. In case you haven't played Ultima Online, you only had 3. You had strength, you had dexterity, and you had intelligence. And you had to balance between them. Basically, you could only have, I think, 250 points or 225, something like that. I think maybe it was 250, but either way, there was a limit that you could go to, and you could only hit a maximum of 100. I think maybe it was 200 points you could go to, and you had 3 stats to split it between. But you could train one and lose the other at the same time. So you could hit your max, having trained yourself by literally just doing strength-based activities to increase your strength, do dexterity-related abilities and things to increase your dex, and intelligence things to raise up your intel. Like you could go out and just play an instrument and start to get smarter, and read books around town and start to get smarter and things like that. And once you capped out and you used up all your points, you could actually retrain that by saying, I'm way too smart, I need to lose some intelligence. I'm going to set that to go down, and I want my strength to get better. So you'd go and start doing strength stuff, and you would lose intelligence and start gaining on strength.
You pick things up, you put them down.
Yeah, I pick things up and put them down. I can hear you getting dumber.
Like that. I love stuff like that, because anything that gives, again, like I said about the classes, anything that gives that much player choice, it really helps you craft the player, the character, and ultimately experience that you go through with the game. What classes do you guys plan on rolling, or at least taking an interest in?
Every flavor of tank for me.
You're the tank?
Every flavor of tank.
Yeah, and I do pretty much cleric. I do the heals.
That's an excellent combo.
Yep.
And
then
I'll be your mage.
My secondaries will be trying at least the healer types that seem to be the more popular and the more favored, just so I know what I'm dealing with when I go into a dungeon or a raid with other healers, and I know, what to expect from them, what their limitations are and what their strengths are. Just as a tank, I need to know what they're doing and what to expect of them.
My secondary idea was to play DPS classes, because that's the next one.
You need to know which ones to yell at when they won't get out of the fire, and which ones can't get out of the fire because they're too slow.
I know if you push this button, it makes you dash, so you need to get your booty out of the way.
Yeah, which ones can't control their threat. Yeah. Like, just being the thought of playing like a necromancer, or something that starts out as a DPS class and then goes into a healer class, a healer archetype, like having like quote unquote polar opposites, kind of work into each other like that. I'm really interested to see how that works. I don't know if I'll main that, because it's not quite my jam, but like just seeing stuff like that where you have opposite archetypes essentially conjoining, I love that stuff. Yeah. Like for me, almost not almost, but like a lot of flavors of mage and a lot of flavors of summoner is where I'm going to lean. I'll check out pretty much every other one. Like I said, I'll have so many. I'm an altaholic. I make so many characters in these games. Like, I like tanking, because I feel like when you're out in the world and you have like an elite quest, or when you happen upon a dungeon or a quest that takes you to a dungeon, to best of both worlds. You're in the moment, you're like, ah, crap, I need a tank. And then you're just spamming like, world chat. I need a tank. Need a tank. Can anyone tank?
Tank anybody?
And it's like 40 minutes and nobody wants to tank. Because I get it. There's a little bit of pressure. You're the guy that's driving, the group forward. And if you mess up, everyone's probably going to die. So I understand that there's that level of pressure. But I like being that guy who can do the thing. Yeah. So like being able to take the reins if you have to. That's why I was like the mage tank, which is called the.
I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, the what the heck is it? The spellstone, or if you go tank first then mage, it's spell shield. That just sounds really epic. And if you go mage then tank, spell stone. I don't really know how they're going to differentiate that, but like the ability of being able to, because now that makes me think, like, will that just be like a magic mitigation tank? Like if say you have a raid of like 30 people or whatever the raid size is, and you have 3 tanks, are you gonna have like 2 physical tanks and like the mage tank who like takes aggro on the boss who does magic damage? You know, like, or is it just a literal tank who can tank all the hits and just shoot off magic? You know, like, again, I could talk about this stuff for a day and a half, but like being able to test that stuff out and like just see all the different flavors of that, like that to me, like that's one of the more unique combinations. How many times do you see a tank and a mage like the same character? I think that's one of the like most underrepresented.
Yeah, I made a class specifically geared around being a mage tank in D&D. We had a D&D campaign that was loosely based on some lore that was released for Ashes. And so I said, all right, well, if that's the case, I'm going to make a mage tank. And I did as close as I could to making a mage tank. And I had fun.
How did you build that character? Like, did you build it as someone who can just tank all the magic damage, or as someone who could take the physical beating and chuck spells?
I think it was more of I'd need to look it up again. I forget which direction I went with. I think I went with more magical damage, but I also had just a ton of constitution, and I had decent armor.
So yeah, so you can just take it all. All right.
Yeah. So I can shoot stuff. I can go pew, but then when something comes at me, I can take a slap to the face pretty well.
You can dish the pews. You could take the pews.
Yep. Absolutely.
Spell shield will be what you need versus mages. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you know, a magic counter class, which as like caster main, that's gonna be my worst nightmare. Because if I had to guess, those classes probably won't do a ton of damage, but they can lock you down and make you feel useless so that everybody else can kill you. Yeah, which
or even that
seems like,
or even that way. Maybe just something more of a range tank, so they can put up like magical bubbles and stuff to protect the group from like arrows coming in, you know, prevent X amount of damage or something like that for everybody in the bubble.
Or feel like a council boss where there's like multiple boss-esque enemies to the encounter, and like you have the 2 physical tanks handling the big guy, and then you have, you know, the spell shield handling like the caster mini boss or whatever. Like, you know, like the
if a tank
ways
mage,
they can build encounters.
Yeah, and if a tank mage can't do some version of mirror images, I'm gonna riot.
Yes.
Tank mage needs to do some kind of mirror image type spell.
I haven't seen that spell in so long. I first saw that in Warcraft 3, the old RTS game back in the day. That was a Blade Master ability, you know, which is an agility-based hero that you can use. And he would basically make 3 images of himself, and like the 2 did no damage, but the main character still did. So like seeing a mage being able to do that would just be like, mwah.
Right.
And I think the hours might be getting to Miss Chibi here.
I'm sorry. I'm really trying not to. I'm trying to stop it, but it's like I think me trying to think about not yawning is making me yawn more, and it's not helping at all.
It's starting to be contagious over to me. I could feel it coming.
I'm doing my best to hide it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I've been up since 6 o'clock. I'm right there with you guys.
Ready to tap out. All right, well then
not
about this.
quite.
How about
I got more Elden Ring to play. I'm not going to bed just yet.
There are worse ways to pass out than at a controller playing a game you're having fun with. Getting beat to death by skeletons or whatever you're fighting.
I remember being so into gaming that I'd fall asleep at my computer in the middle of playing and like wake up to being logged out of the game.
Yep, that was me with WoW. And then when I got my, I was lucky enough to get a PS5 earlier this year. I've turned into my father 100% because he'd fall asleep on the couch with the remote, and I'd just fall asleep on the couch with my controller, and I'd wake up at like 4 in the morning and I'm like, well, time for bed.
All right then. Well, what about if we leave off with something somewhat of an opinion question? It's kind of a fun question, I suppose. And just limit it to say like 5 to 10 sentences of concise what you're thinking on it. So, somebody put forth the idea of removing experience bars so that people tend to focus more on the experience they're having rather than the experience they're trying to earn. Like focus on playing the game rather than gaining levels. Good
I
idea,
figured
bad
on
idea?
That as long as there's no like XP debt, I'm good. Because I need to know how much XP debt I accrued.
It really depends on how the game is designed, because there has to be some kind of progression. And I get it, there's gear progression, but character progression and increasing stats with level, I feel like that's just a little bit too crucial to how MMOs are designed. I'd be open to hearing how it would be done 100%, because it's something different, and there's nothing wrong with introducing new flavors. But my quick little opinion on that would be very interesting idea, probably very difficult to execute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think MobTech might have the idea dialed in there. It would be great if it were an option, and let people turn it off if they want to be more immersed in the game and whatnot. But I know me personally, as much as I think it would be more immersive to just play and do whatever you want instead of worrying about leveling, sometimes I use that as my gauge for how long I'm going to play. I'm going to play until I hit a level, because it looks like I can do that in the next, say, hour or so. So that's my goal. My goal is to level, and then I'm logging out. That's my hard limit. I level and I'm done.
100%.
It's my time management. Or I need to get to at least this point, or sometimes it's a different goal. But also, like Chibi said, I need to know how much experience debt I have, because I'm a tank. I'm going to die a lot. Experience debt is going to be my nemesis, as well as repair bills. So now I'm going to have both. I'm going to cry.
This might be a very heavy statement to say, but depending on how bad the XP debt is upon death, I might not play Ashes, the more that I think about it.
Again, I don't think it'll be too bad. Obviously, they haven't finalized any decisions, but I remember very brief conversations about it, and I don't think he said it was going to be all that brutal. And
I mean, it was pretty bad in Alpha 1, so if it's not as bad as that was, we're good. But I literally quit playing a character because it was faster to get to the next level by making a new character than it was to try to get out of the XP debt. And if that is how that ends up being...
See, what I like about that is I think it falls in line to some of Steven's other philosophies, being a long-time MMO player, is it more incentivizes you to group up with people. Because if you're in a group with somebody, you might not be making as much XP, per kill, just to kind of balance that, but you're probably less likely to die. So, and I understand solo playing in the world is a thing for MMO players. I understand not everyone wants to be in a group all the time. But to me, any system that at least not requires, but incentivizes further group activity, to me is a good thing. And XP loss might not be the best way to do it, but if I'm not quite as gung ho against that as you are, Chibi, but it's definitely daunting. But
I've just never really had a game that did XP loss before, and experiencing that in Alpha 1 and the frustration that I felt of trying to get to the next level and just finally giving up and making a new character, that put a very realistic perspective on Ashes for me that I hadn't considered before. And so when Vertec and I found out recently that you could also have loot affected by XP debt or stuff like that, that started kind of weighing on my head a little bit more. But I mean, I know Alpha 1 was Alpha 1, and they said it's supposed to get better. I know I can't lose a level, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be any easier.
It would still be a time investment to get out of the debt.
Yeah, we got up to...
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say, I know that it was not meant to be that extreme right off the bat, so they adjusted it and even turned it off in the alpha. But and I know that Steven said you're not going to de-level, so hopefully it limits at the bottom of that level that you're at. But that being said, we were adventuring around, and as two people running around together, we explored an area around one of the early quests at level 6 or something, and we died enough that it was quite literally quicker and easier to erase those characters and start over than gain all of that level again.
That's rough.
And get past all that experience debt.
Were you guys playing your healer tank combo?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, yeah, but I mean tank was also not in peak form at that point, so you
But
know.
the other side of that is if you play Final Fantasy 14 right now and the amount of XP it takes to get from level 89 to 90. Now imagine de-leveling all of that XP and having to go through all of that XP again just to get to 91.
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, that would just further incentivize the group content because, like, I've played Final Fantasy 14 up to like level maybe 40. I just haven't picked it up recently. But like, is dungeon grinding like a thing in Final Fantasy? Like, can you like run what are they called in Final Fantasy?
Yeah. There's dungeons and people sit there and queue for those over and over and over. And just grind
Is that
those
like
all day.
is that an effective? Yeah, is that an effective way to get XP? Duty, that's what it's called.
It's about on par with just questing, to be honest.
Right, but I mean, how often do you guys wipe in a dungeon? Like, I've had people die, but I think the only time we wiped is when there's that one like dragon kind of boss on like that lava platform that kept knocking the tank off the edge because the tank wasn't moving out of his big knockback. Like, that was the only time the group ever wiped. You know, so like, do the dungeons get harder at higher level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
I mean,
it's still just
there's-
risky.
Yeah, it's basically like the way I would personally look at it. If experience debt was even close to as harsh as it was in the Alpha 1, which again was not as tough as it's meant to be. It was way tougher than they meant it to be, and they turned it off like immediately that day. But if it were even half that strict and difficult, I would probably not go into any group content areas until I hit max level.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't touch it.
Guy can mess it up, you know.
Yeah, I would get to the point where if I get down to half health fighting something, I'm just going to not fight that something. I'm going to run away and not go to that area.
Yeah.
I'm not going to chance it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're grown-ups. Our time is limited to play, so having to deal with that is definitely daunting. But I don't know, because like I think it's a lot of times with like when they're first making raid content, like they can ratchet up the numbers of the boss damage. They start high with that, and then they tune it down as the players do it more. I feel like with the XP loss, it's similar. They start high just to, you know, see like how players react, and they can ratchet it down slowly. It's easier to bring it down to see how the players can adapt to it than like shoot it up over time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll bring
yeah.
it down a lot more.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, I think it was actually like a decimal area error or something like that, and it was just multiplicatively higher than it should have been.
Multiplicatively?
Multiplicatively.
I can't math, but I can English sometimes.
Mixoplix. I can say his name at least. Sorry. What were you saying, Chibi?
What are you saying, Chibi?
I DM'd you.
Oh.
Group wipes are easy to recover from Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, for the raids in Final Fantasy, like from what I heard, there's not even like a lot of run back. Like you wipe and then you spawn in front of the boss and you just do it again. Is that more or less how it works?
Like that. It depends on where you're and like what you're doing.
Because I remember
Time will
like
tell.
in WoW, especially older WoW, like you die and like you wipe and then like you have to spirit run, like from however far away the graveyard is. Then you have to enter the raid. Then you have to go all the way back to the boss. And like I hate that. Even in Dark Souls when you fight bosses and like some of the run backs to the bosses were awful. So like yeah, all that factors into the whole XP loss. So if you're losing XP and you have to run a mile to get back to where you were, yeah, that might be kind of rough.
Yeah. The spawn points were pretty far apart in A1. They were pretty far apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that we can. There's another goal we have here for shutting down a little early. Well, not even a little early. We're an hour and a half in. This is like our normal. If anything, we're running
So
late.
it's like on par,
What am I
right?
talking about? My brain took it the other way around, but no. We actually had somebody on a while ago. His name was Cabal, and we had a lot of fun with him on the show. And he's gone on to do really cool stuff, like one of the more unique content creators that I've seen in a while. So
I was gonna say he's
really
a YouTuber,
enjoying
right?
his stuff. Yeah.
He was,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, it was. Now he's doing most of his stuff on Twitch and just kind of uploads stuff over there, as far as I know. But we're gonna actually raid him because he's usually never on during the times where we wrap up, so we haven't been able to raid him. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you say if you wanted to close up any comments.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. Do you have any-
Thanks. I'm just glad again, after how many years now of talking, like, I'm just glad we finally got to do this. I've been in lurk mode for most of that time. So being able to actually, come out and I am a professional lurker. So being able to finally come out and actually speak with you guys and interact with, the community some more about Ashes, because I haven't talked to the Ashes community a whole lot. I'm in the Discord, but there's a lot of stuff going on in there. So yeah, it was just really good being able to actually, hear, voice different opinions and get all this, synergy going.
And if you guys want to follow him, here's his Twitter. I know the timer is counting down there.
Yeah, I'm gonna cancel this raid. We can re-raid after.
Yeah, my Twitter's not super interesting, but that's what it is.
There you go.
And,
okay.
Can't wait to play Ashes with you guys.
Same.
Right.
I'll be the best battle mage chef you ever met.
But as always, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Your presence, your words, and your chatting has been so appreciated. We are so appreciative of it. Wording today is really tough. I cannot English.
It is a little bit, yeah. I feel that.
But yeah, we love you all. You could have been doing anything today. You could have been making your own podcast and talking about whatever you wanted to talk about. But instead, you talked with us about things that you wanted to talk about, and we like that.
AJ. Thank you.
Hey, the time is the most valuable asset, and the fact that 20 plus of you guys chose to spend it here goes a long way. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody, you have yourselves a happy day. We'll catch you next time.